We're back with Congresswoman and all-around, I think, super agent, Michele Bachmann is here. Get this, she's a mother of 28 children, 23 of those foster, 5 biological. Are you crazy? I just want to get out of the gate with that. Are you? I mean, come on. 23?
Well, like I said, I'm the old woman in the shoe. This is really what I wanted more than anything, was to be a happy mom in a big house. That's what I wanted. It's just to have a house full of kids.
Okay, well, hang on. There's so many issues here because we have parents talking all the time. I get lost. I'm between work and then being a mom, and I've got 2 kids, and I lose my identity. Like, how did you not go? Did you go through that, or you lose who you were?
Honestly, it's a little counterintuitive, but the more you have, actually, the more order you have in your house. Now, I know it doesn't make sense, but it's like,
it doesn't.
Well, consider when you have your first baby, right? It's total chaos.
Right.
The second one, it's like double trouble. And the third one, you lose control. The fourth one, you have to start to get a system. By the 5th child, you really have the system. And then you start a buddy system where you pair an older child with a younger child, and everyone has their chores. And once you get a system in place, you don't know how you'd ever get along without the kids, because you can literally get the house clean in about 20 minutes.
Oh, so I see her. So you became a foster parent because you wanted to clean house.
Oh, okay.
You wanted them to do the laundry.
Now you're letting the truth out. No, not exactly. But you figure out survival tactics, and it's so much fun because these kids have great senses of humor. They're constantly playing tricks on you, and we just, we have a good time.
Well, how did you decide to initially become a foster parent?
Well, like I said, I always wanted to be a mom, but we had a miscarriage, and our 3rd baby was a miscarriage. When that happened, it rocked our world. And my husband and I both decided at that point that we would receive however many children we had, however many children God gave us. And we ended up having 5 biological, but it was really foster care, where children who biologically weren't ours, that's really where we added the numbers.
So it was what was it, 92 is when you first decided that you were going to have a sports team?
Well, sort of. Actually, I was pregnant with our 4th baby, and at that point, I had been a federal tax litigation attorney. So I had worked in federal tax court for a number of years. When the 4th baby, when I was pregnant with that 4th one, it wasn't going to happen anymore. It was too many balls that we were juggling in the air.
Sure.
And so I decided now's the time to realize my dream. My husband had finished his PhD. He's a clinical psychologist. He started his private practice. So I really could stay home full time then. And then it was all about the kids. At that point, everything was about the home and the kids and building up our family.
Well, didn't you have an epiphany, I believe, at church, where you met a family that had a foster child, and that kind of planted the seed?
That's exactly what happened. We'd never really thought about foster care before, but my husband and I we have a very strong faith. We are committed believers in Jesus Christ, and in our church was another couple that had a foster daughter. She was expecting a baby, and they were intending to keep her and her child and help her learn how to parent. And we, our hearts broke for this girl, and we thought, that's something we could do. We'd never thought about it, but, our hearts are broken, and we decided to stretch ourselves and see if we could do this. So we opened ourselves up, and we took our first girl.
All right. So, okay. All right. I'm still blown away by 23. Had the first one not gone well, would you tapped out? Like, obviously, the first child that you that you fostered.
It went really well. The first one
so
really
who was, what was the experience?
She was a great girl. She was a great girl. She was 16 years of age. She was in a homeless shelter, and we got a call from a social work agency. Would we take her? And so we were fear and trembling. We went to pick her up. We were probably as scared as she was, and she was in the shelter. She had mismatched clothing on and a rumpled jacket, and we brought her home, and she had a suitcase this big. It's the weekend size, like going to grandma's, like a 3-year-old would have. We took her up to the bedroom. I opened up the little suitcase. She literally had one garment, and the shoes she was wearing were size 9. The only problem was she was a size 6. She had nothing. And this little girl had to go to school the next day in an affluent suburban high school. So she and I went to Target. We bought her clothes so that she'd have something to wear the next day. And think about going through that. You've gone through all this transition and tumble and turmoil, and you're going into a place where you think, I'm the odd man out. So we got her some clothes she could fit in, and our job at that point was to let her know, you mean something to us. We're crazy about you. And that's the message we tried to send to her, is that we are crazy about you and we want you to succeed. And we were committed to her, and we still are. And she's just a delightful person, and she's graduated from high school and launched, and she's just a magnificent woman.
How long did you have her for?
On average, about 2 years. It just depends. Every situation was different. Some children, we got a waiver to keep them a little longer after high school. And the goal was to make sure every one of these kids graduated from high school, because unfortunately, foster kids have a low high school graduation rate. And they all graduated. All the kids graduated.
Well, let me ask you, though, about your family. How did they assimilate into the family? How did your children accept this girl and vice versa?
Well, our biological kids learned that they weren't the only people in the world, that the world's a lot bigger than just them. And our biologicals were 10 and under, and our foster girls were 16 and over. And we kept a schedule so that our biologicals all went to bed around 7:30. And so when our biologicals went to bed, then we gave undivided time to the foster kids. And I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. We didn't have 23 foster kids all at one time. We had 4 foster girls at a time and 5 biologicals. So the census in the house was 9 kids. When I grew up, there's a lot of families that had 9 kids or 7 kids.
I'm exhausted with 2.
Doable,
okay.
You know? Usually you have 9 months to prepare. You know, in our case, it's a phone call and we have them the next day.
Of those, because we talked about the first one that you had, there was a succession of them. They're not all coming to you, you know, without their sort of baggage and the issues that they have to deal with.
Well, we weren't a perfect family either. And families just had a challenge. It was some kind of challenge in the family. And for whatever reason, this child wasn't going to go home again before high school. So we brought them in, and our job was just to provide, this is a model. We're not perfect, but this is a model of what a mom and dad look like, who love each other. Here's a schedule. The dad goes to work, the dad comes home. We sit down, we pray before the meal, we do chores, and everybody goes to bed on time. It's not a rocket science formula. It's called life, but it works, and these kids really want it. They want a schedule and expectations.
Now, we understand, though, that you took in specifically young girls who had eating disorders.
We did. And
why did you do that?
Well, you know, we didn't ask for that. That's what started presenting. And the eating disorder program, I think, liked our home and thought this would work well. And my husband, like I said, is a clinical psychologist. We weren't there doing the therapy work. We were mom and dad, but we understood that this is a very complex issue. Eating disorder isn't generally about the food. It's about other issues. It's about control.
Right.
And so that's what we tried to do, is just provide us a very safe, loving environment where they could be who they were and just kind of let their hair down a little bit and breathe. They needed to take a breath and relax.
Well, when they let their hair down, were you pulling yours out? Like, when did you sleep? Serious, 9 at a time. I know you said I didn't have 23. Yeah. I'm sorry, I got the facts wrong. 9 is like still a team. So when did you guys find time as a couple?
Well, that's a good question. I'm telling you, we had to work really hard. We didn't have a lot of discretionary time. And so we had to figure it out. So there wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
But, and we didn't do it forever. I mean, we did this over a period of 6 years. And when our oldest son turned 16, then we stopped doing foster care, because our foster children taught us that kids need you more the older they are. You think they can never need you more than when they're a baby, but they need your mind when you're older. Not to just be in their business, but to know that you care and you're involved and you know what's up with them.
Are you still in touch with your children, and how hard was it when they had to leave?
Good question.
Especially when they need you more as they get older.
That's right. With some of them we are, and with some of them we aren't. And, you know, some have just gone off onto their own lives, which is great. That was our goal, to teach them independence, but also to have them go back toward their biological family of origin. Ultimately, every child, I think, wants to know that they have a blessing from their biological mom and dad.
Yeah.
So our goal was to let them know their mom and dad don't have horns. This is a good situation to reunite with. And in their 20s, they tend to mellow. And so that was our goal, is to try and veer them back toward their original biological mom and dad.